Zazen is like water in a glass. Leave the water to sit quietly, and soon the dirt will sink down. Tai-sen Desimaru. Hello, and welcome to the Ancient Wisdom Modern Mind podcast. And today, I would like to share with you my understanding of Zazen Posture and Breathing. The practice of Zen sitting meditation, or Zazen, is at the heart of the Zen Buddhist experience. Originally called Dhyani in India, Zazen has evolved and changed to suit the Japanese mindset, making Zen meditation a very simple yet precise method of meditation, where the correct breathing and posture are a fundamental part of the Zazen practice. And while the mind may wander off into thoughts of the past and speculations concerning the future, the body is always right here, right now. Thus, Zazen begins with the body, practicing an upright and attentive posture. And before we start, I would like to take a moment to remind you to subscribe to this channel. So go ahead and click on the subscribe button. Where to practice your Zazen. Before starting your Zazen, you need to find a quiet and peaceful place where you will not be disturbed. The room where you will practice in should not be too dark or too bright, too warm or too cold, and the sitting place should be neat and clean. Also, it is best to avoid sitting when you haven't had sufficient sleep or when you are physically exhausted. Before sitting, you may eat moderately, but avoid alcohol. It is also good to freshen up by washing your face and feet so that you feel alert and fresh. Plus, this creates a ritualized mood to your meditation, and ritual is a fundamental part of the Zen practice. Zazen sitting posture. There are different ways you can practice Zen meditation. Traditionally, only the full lotus position or the half lotus position is used. However, you can also practice Zazen in the traditional kneeling posture, Seiza, or if you lack flexibility, you can practice Zazen in a chair, with a wedge or cushion on top of it so that one is sitting on an incline, or by placing a wedge behind the lower back to help maintain the natural curve of the spine. Zazen is traditionally practiced sitting on a zafu, a thick round cushion, in full lotus, kekafuza in Japanese, or half lotus position, hankafuza in Japanese. The purpose of this cushion is to elevate the hips, thus forcing the knees to be firmly rooted to the floor. This way, your Zazen will be a lot more stable and also comfortable. Additionally, you need to have a zabitan, which is a rectangular mat that is placed under the zafu to cushion the knees and legs. Ideally, it is recommended that you buy a zafu, but as a beginner, you can fold up a thick blanket or a folded pillow to work as a zafu. Zafus are usually around 13 to 14 inches in diameter, but can be found in a variety of sizes. You can also utilize a thick blanket as a homemade zabitan. For the half lotus position, put either foot on top of the opposite thigh and place the other foot on the floor underneath the other thigh. For the full lotus position, put each foot on the opposite thigh with the line of the toes matching the outer line of the thighs. It is important to push the sky with the top of your head and to push the floor with your knees. These postures might seem uncomfortable and unnatural for most beginners, but with practice, your legs and hips will become more flexible. Your mind will relax, and you will find the posture to be quite comfortable. Head and neck. Whatever the position you choose to adopt, make sure that your back and neck stay as straight as possible. Pull your chin in a little to erect the neck and try to push the sky with the top of your head. Do not be too tensed or too relaxed while you do this. Try to find balance in your posture. Keep your mouth closed during Zazen. Your teeth should be together, and your tongue should be against the roof of your mouth, just behind your teeth. The eyes. Traditionally in Zen, the eyes are kept open during meditation. This prevents the meditator from daydreaming or becoming drowsy. Without focusing on nothing in particular, direct your vision about 1 meter in front of you on the floor. Your eyes will naturally come to rest in a position that is half opened and half closed. When doing Zazen in a Soto dojo, meditation hall, the meditator sits facing a wall in order to avoid being distracted by external movement. It is suggested to do the same at home. Hands and arms position. The position of the hands during Zazen is the same for the full lotus, half lotus, seiza, and chair positions. This hand position is called the cosmic mudra, or gesture of reality, called hokai, join in Japanese. First, put your left hand on the right one, and palms turned towards the sky. Now, make an oval by touching the tips of the thumbs together so that your thumbs touch each other and form a somewhat straight line. The tips of your thumbs should lightly touch each other. Both of your wrists should rest on your thighs. The edge of your hands should rest against your belly while keeping your shoulders relaxed. Cosmic Mudra posture, also called Hokai, join, Dhyani Mudra, or Dhammadhatu Mudra. There are 2 reasons for this hand position. First, shape of the hands harmonizes the condition of our minds, and the meaning of this mudra is beyond duality. Secondly, if your mind is somewhere else when you sit, naturally the shape of this oval becomes distorted. This can be a signal for yourself that something is wrong with your meditation, and for your teacher so that he can correct you. Posture of the breath. Zen breathing is a fundamental part of the Zazen practice, and the precise breathing technique can only really be achieved through maintaining the right posture. During Zazen, breathe quietly through the nose and keep the mouth closed. Try to establish a calm, long and deep, natural rhythm. You should focus on the exhalation, while the inhalation is done naturally. When practicing Zazen breathing, we focus on the abdomen rising and falling in much the same way an infant's belly rises and falls. So in Zazen, it is important to loosen up anything that is tight around the waist and to wear clothing that is non-binding. Allow the diaphragm to move freely so that the breathing can be deep, easy, and natural. In Zazen breathing, it is not necessary to control or manipulate the breath, and you don't have to make the breath happen in any particular way. Natural breathing will happen by itself if you take a correct posture that is reasonably comfortable and positions your body properly, which is why it's important to wear clothing that is loose around the waist and also behind the knees when you cross the legs, so as not to inhibit the abdomen and circulation around the knees. During Zazen, breathe through your nose and keep your mouth closed. If you have a cold or some kind of a nasal blockage, it's okay to breathe through your mouth. The tongue is pressed lightly against the upper palate. Swallow once to create a seal and reduce the need to salivate and swallow. The eyes are kept lowered, with your gaze resting on the ground about 2 or 3 feet in front of you. Begin rocking the body back and forth, slowly, in decreasing arcs, until you settle at your center of gravity. The mind is in the Hara. Hands are folded in the cosmic Mudrā. Mouth is closed and tongue is pressed on the upper palate. As you're breathing through the nose, try and completely experience the breath while keeping your attention on the Hara and the breath. Posture of the mind. Zen master Taisen Disimaru said, "By simply sitting without looking for any goal or any personal benefit, if your posture, your breathing, and your state of mind are in harmony, you will understand the true Zen. You will understand the Buddha's nature." As you sit, the mind takes on various postures or stances. It crosses its psychological arms and tries to just wait things out. When this fails, it twiddles its thumbs. It fidgets and scratches and wriggles the body. It crouches and slumps amongst its memories, its favorite old movies and songs, as random chattering. It bloats with pride at having been watching the breath so clearly, on and on and on. The mind defines itself as being alive, as opposed to being a process. It tells itself stories about itself over and over to try to prove to itself that it is real. It makes a statement and then confuses that idea with reality, and so blinds itself to the true relationship between mind and awareness. Breathing in, breathing out, just sit and rest the attention on the Hara. The Hara is a place within the body, located 2 inches below the navel, inside the body. Considered to be the physical and spiritual center of the unawakened mind. In Zazen, you will begin to develop a relationship with the Hara. You will practice putting your attention there, putting your mind there. As you develop your Zazen, you'll become more aware of the Hara as the center of your attentiveness. We begin to steady and stabilize the mind by counting the breath. We practice by counting each inhalation and each exhalation, beginning with 1 and counting up to 10. Inhale. At the end of the inhalation, count 1. Exhale. At the end of the exhalation, count 2. When you get to 10, come back to 1 and start all over. The only agreement that you make with yourself in this process is that if your mind begins to wander, if you become aware that what you're doing is chasing thoughts, you will look at the thought, acknowledge it, and then deliberately and consciously let it go and begin the count again at 1. The counting is a feedback to help you know when your mind has drifted off. Each time you return to the breath, you are empowering yourself with the ability to put your mind where you want it for as long as you want it there. That simple act is extremely important and builds up a concentrated momentum. Joriki, or power of concentration, which is the ability to remain stable. Joriki is the first goal of Zen, and Jo means concentration, and Riki means power. So we get the power of concentration. This is different from Jiriki, which means self-power or willpower. When you've been practicing counting the breath for a while, your awareness will sharpen. You will begin to notice things that were always there but escaped your attention. Because of the preoccupation with the internal dialogue, you are too full to be able to see what was happening around you. The process of Zazen begins to open that up. When you're able to stay with the counting and repeatedly get to 10 without any effort and without thoughts interfering, it's time to begin counting every cycle of the breath. Inhalation and exhalation will count as 1. The next inhalation and exhalation as 2. This provides less feedback, but with time, you will need less feedback. Eventually, you'll want to just follow the breath and abandon the counting altogether. Just be with the breath. Just be the breath. Let the breath breathe itself. That's the beginning of the falling away of body and mind. It takes some time, and you shouldn't rush it. You shouldn't move too fast from counting every breath to counting every other breath and on to following the breath. If you move ahead prematurely, you'll end up not developing strong juriki, and it's the buildup of concentrated momentum that ultimately leads to what is called samadhi, or single-pointedness of mind. In the process of working with the breath, the thoughts that come up, for the most part, will be just noise, just random thoughts. Sometimes, however, when you're in a crisis or involved in something important in your life, you'll find that the thought, when you let it go, will reoccur. You let it go again, but it comes back. You let it go, and it still comes back. Sometimes that needs to happen. Don't treat that as a failure. Treat it as another way of practicing. This is the time to let the thought happen. Engage it. Let it run its full course. But watch it. Be aware of it. Allow it to do what it's got to do. Let it exhaust itself. Then release it. Let it go. Come back again to the breath. Start at 1 and continue the process. Don't use Zazen to suppress thoughts or issues that need to come up. Scattered mental activity and energy keeps us separated from each other, from our environment, and from ourselves. In the process of sitting, the surface activity of our minds begins to slow down. The mind is like the surface of a pond. When the wind is blowing, the surface is disturbed, and there are ripples. Nothing can be seen clearly because of the ripples. The reflected image of the sun or the moon is broken up into many fragments. Out of that stillness, our whole life arises. If we don't get in touch with it at some time in our life, we will never get the opportunity to come to a point of rest. In deep Zazen, deep samadhi, a person breathes at a rate of only 2 or 3 breaths a minute. Normally, at rest, a person will breathe about 15 breaths a minute. Even when we're relaxing, we don't quite relax. The more completely your mind is at rest, the more deeply your body is at rest. Respiration, heart rate, circulation, and metabolism slow down in deep Zazen. The whole body comes to a point of stillness that it doesn't reach even in deep sleep. This deep stillness is a very important part of Zen practice. Single-pointedness of mind that creates a unity of body, mind, and spirit, and is a state of being truly alive, or the ability to be completely awake. It is also important to be patient and persistent, to not be constantly thinking of your goals, or of how the sitting practice may help you. The idea is to just put yourself into Zazen and let go of your thoughts, opinions, positions, everything our minds hold on to. The human mind is basically free, not clinging. In Zazen, we learn to uncover that mind, to see who we really are. So I hope this helps you with your understanding of Zazen posture and breathing. I've enjoyed sharing my understanding of Zazen with you, and I encourage you to explore and learn about yourself and to continue your journey. And if you like the podcast, I would like to also take a moment to remind you to subscribe to this channel or sign up to the newsletter if you would like to be notified when I release new content. And if you would like to support my work, then you can download the podcast for a small supporter's remuneration. Links are in the description. Here's to you and your fulfillment and growth into every tomorrow to come.